Today we need to talk about a turning point. Sweden has officially withdrawn state funding from Jehovah's Witnesses, not because of doctrine, not because of theology, but because of the real-world consequences of the organization's internal policies. Policies that Sweden now recognizes as discriminatory, harmful, and incompatible with democratic values. Under Sweden's new 2024 law on public support for religious communities, any religion that receives taxpayer money must respect the principles of non-discrimination, human dignity, and democratic norms. And after reviewing the evidence, the Swedish authority in charge of these evaluations concluded that Jehovah's Witnesses do not meet these criteria. Again, this decision is not about beliefs. Sweden respects their right to worship. This is about behavior, about how an organization treats people. The first issue is the practice of shunning former members. Sweden identified this as a form of social exclusion that can destroy family bonds and violate the basic right to personal autonomy. Cutting off all contact with someone simply because they leave a religious group is not compatible with state-funded community life. In Sweden's eyes, this is discrimination. The second issue concerns LGBTQ individuals. The organization's internal stance is stigmatizing and exclusionary. For the Swedish state, you cannot accept public money while simultaneously demeaning or excluding citizens based on sexual orientation or identity. Public funding requires respect for everyone. The third issue concerns the treatment of members who choose a partner who is not in the organization. These people may face pressure, judgment, and in some cases even exclusion. The Swedish authorities view this as a violation of the fundamental right to form relationships freely, without organizational interference. This decision is not an attack on religion. It is a refusal to finance discrimination. And this is part of a larger trend. Across Europe, Norway, Belgium, the Netherlands, and beyond, governments are finally starting to question practices that for decades have been protected under the broad umbrella of freedom of religion. More and more states are asking, do these policies respect human dignity? Do they harm families? Do they violate basic rights? For far too long, democratic societies have moved slowly, painfully slowly. We are, in many ways, decades late in recognizing and addressing the damage high control groups can inflict on individuals, families, and entire communities. Thousands of stories around the world reveal a pattern of psychological pressure, emotional manipulation, and forced social isolation, all hidden behind religious language. And yes, something is finally starting to shift. Sweden's decision sends a clear message. If you want public money, you must respect public values. If you want state support, you must not undermine the rights of the very citizens the state is responsible for protecting. This raises an essential question. Will it be enough now? Is this the beginning of real accountability, or just another symbolic gesture in a world that reacts only when the problem becomes impossible to ignore? Will governments simply issue warnings, or will they finally take consistent, firm action to protect individuals from harmful organizational policies? Will society continue to tolerate practices that fracture families and communities, or will we finally draw a line and say, respect human rights or lose access to public privileges? Because the truth is undeniable. Jehovah's Witnesses as a religious belief system are not the issue. People have the right to believe whatever they choose. But when an organization enforces social punishment, discrimination, and isolation, it crosses a line that no democratic society should ignore. And so the question remains echoing in the air. Will it be enough? Will this be the moment when governments finally recognize that defending human dignity is not optional, but essential? Or will the world allow harmful systems to continue unchecked behind the shield of religious freedom? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear. Decisions like Sweden's are long overdue. And if they are the first step toward real protection for vulnerable individuals, then they cannot remain isolated. More countries need to act. More institutions need to stand up. And society itself must refuse to accept the destruction of families and lives as normal or religious, because human rights do not stop at the door of any organization, and they should never, ever be negotiable.